Hi, this is Jerry Mona with Boater Input. Have you ever uncovered your boat only to discover that your once beautiful seats are now covered in mold and mildew? I know I have, and this is a common problem with boats, especially if you store your boat for any length of time. The problem is, once you have mold or mildew, getting rid of it is no easy matter. In fact, your best line of defense is to prevent it from occurring altogether. Prevent it from occurring altogether. So in today's video, I'm going to discuss what mold is, what causes it to form, and steps that you can take to prevent it from occurring. I'll also touch briefly on what you can do to remove mold and mildew should it appear on your boat. Mold and mildew are a type of fungus that spreads through tiny little spores that get distributed through the air. Think of a dandelion. You have the little seeds or spores that get distributed when the wind blows, and then pretty soon you have weeds all over your yard. Well, mold and mildew is the same way, except the seeds are microscopic and far more numerous. And mold and mildew spores are everywhere. They're inside your house, they're outside, they're even in your boat. And so while you can't prevent mold and mildew spores from being present, what you can do is try to keep them from growing in the first place. So how do you do that? In order for mold and mildew to grow, it needs, among other things, oxygen and moisture. And since it's a fungus, it also thrives in dark areas too. Now, we obviously can't do anything about oxygen, and we can't do anything about the dark areas either, because it's important to keep your boat covered to protect it. But we can control moisture. And so that is the key to stemming mold growth, is to make sure that the inside of our boat is dry, that there are no leaks that may allow moisture to enter in, and that your boat is well ventilated so that condensation doesn't form when it's covered. And so in order to keep moisture down to prevent mold and mildew from growing, here are a few things that I've done over the years that I found to be very successful. First thing is to make sure that your boat is completely dry before you cover it back up. So when I go on a ski run, for example, I'll take all my life jackets and I'll hang them up until they're completely dry. Now I'll make sure the carpet is all dry too before I attempt to put the cover back on. The second thing I do is I'll open up all the hatches like this. That just allows better air circulation, so you'll have little pockets where you have air that just doesn't circulate, and moisture can build up and you can get mold that way. And then the third thing that I'll do, if I'm going to be away from my boat for an extended period of time, is to remove all soft goods from the boat. And that means you remove your life jackets, take out your throw cushion, gloves, any towels, anything like that that can become a breeding ground for mold and mildew. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is you want to cover your boat, and you want a cover that is tight enough to keep moisture out, but is also ventilated to allow any the air to circulate or heat to dissipate. So here's a cover on my boat over here, and this is a pretty tight fitting cover, and hopefully you can see this, but there are some vents right there at the top of the cover that are going to allow air to escape. And now that is extremely important, because even if you live in a cold climate, let's say you have your boat sitting outside covered or shrink wrapped, during the day when the sun's shining on it, the temperature underneath your cover can get much warmer than the surrounding temperature. And then when night falls, the air cools, that may condensate, just like when in the windows on your car or in your house when there's a big temperature swing. And so what will happen is you'll have moisture trapped in under your cover, and you're going to have a mold problem. So ventilation is critical. Now, if you shrink wrap your boat, make sure that they put vents in your shrink wrap. If they don't do so, there's some products you can buy to quickly and easily, inexpensively add some vents. And so I'll leave a link to that in the video description. And if you cover your boat with a tarp, then just make sure you leave some gaps in there too, just so again that you can allow that any heat that builds up to escape, and so you get that circulation, because what you don't want to have is, again, a big change in temperature between what's underneath your boat and the outside air, because that's what leads to the condensation, which then leads to the mold and mildew. Now, there's one additional step to consider before you cover your boat, and this especially applies to those who live in a very humid environment, or if your boat sits outside and is exposed to a lot of heating and then cooling. And that is to put some moisture absorbing packets in your boat. something like damp rid. They come in little buckets, and you just place a few of these around your boat in different areas, and it'll absorb any excess moisture so that it doesn't, adhere, doesn't form on your seats. They're not that expensive, well, certainly a lot cheaper than having to replace your cushions, and I'll leave a link to that in the video description. So what do you do if you find out that you do have some mold or mildew growing on the inside of your boat? Well, let me start by saying what you should not do, and that is you should not use standard household cleaners, and especially not something like bleach. And the reason for that is, while it may temporarily remove the mold or mildew, it will also strip away a lot of the UV inhibitors and the antimicrobials that are built into your marine fabric. That's what makes marine vinyl different from regular vinyl, is those additives. And so what will happen then is your seats will be more susceptible to future mold and mildew growth. It'll dry out your seats, make them more prone to fading, cracking, and your seams could fail. So you'll really be aging your upholstery, so you stay away from that. You need to use something that is safe for marine vinyls. And the best product that I've found to remove mold and mildew from marine vinyls is this product from Marine 31. It's called Mildew Stain Remover. You just spray it on, wait a few minutes, and then work it in with a cloth or a soft brush, and then you should be good to go. It does a great job of removing mold and mildew, and it's also, most importantly, it's also safe to use on marine vinyls. Okay, just to recap, the key to preventing mold and mildew from forming is to firstly, make sure the interior of your boat is completely dry before you cover it up. And I may not have mentioned this earlier, but if you're going to be storing your boat for an extended period of time, make sure you check your bilge area as well. Make sure that's dry and drained. Secondly, open up any compartments or hatches so you get good airflow in through there, and so that'll dry things out. Thirdly, use a cover that keeps moisture out, but at the same time is well ventilated. And that is absolutely critical. A well ventilated cover will keep condensation from forming, which is a key cause of mold and mildew. And then lastly, if you're in a very humid environment, or if your boat's out in the yard, and exposed to a lot of heating and cooling throughout the day, then you may want to also add some of those moisture absorbing buckets on the bottom of the floor of your boat, just to absorb any additional moisture so that it doesn't cling to your upholstery. Well, I hope you found this information to be helpful. If you did, do me a big favor and click on that like button. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel to get my latest tips to help you purchase, equip, and maintain your boat. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I will see you out on the water.